It was a surprise to find so clean and comfortable a little dwelling in this New England wilderness. The young man had known the horrors of its most primitive housekeeping and the dreary squalor of that level of society which does not rebel at the companionship of hens. This was the best thrift of an old-fashioned farmstead, though on such a small scale that it seemed like a hermitage. He listened eagerly to the old woman's quaint talk. He watched Sylvia's pale face and shining gray eyes with ever-growing enthusiasm, and insisted that this was the best supper he had eaten for a month, and afterward the new-made friends sat down in the doorway together while the moon came up. Soon it would be berry time, and Sylvia was a great help at picking. The cow was a good milker, though a plaguey thing to keep track of, the hostess gossiped frankly, adding presently that she had buried 4 children. So Sylvia's mother and a son, who might be dead in California, were all the children she had left. Dan, my boy, was a great hand to go gunning, she explained sadly. I never wanted for partridges or gray squirrels while he was to Holmes. Been a great wanderer, I expect, and he's no hand to write letters. There, I don't blame him. I'd have seen the world myself, if it had been so I could. Sylvie takes after him, the grandmother continued affectionately, after a minute's pause. There ain't a foot of ground she don't know her way over, and the wild creatures counts her one of themselves. Squirrels she'll tame to come and feed right out of her hands, and all sorts of birds. Last winter, she got the jaybirds to banding here, and I believe she descanted herself of her own meals to have plenty to throw out amongst 'em if I hadn't kept watch. Anything but crows, I tell her, I'm willin' to help support. Though Dan, he had a tamed one of 'em that did seem to have reason, same as folks. It was round here a good spell after he went away. Dan and his father, they didn't hitch, but he never held up his head again after Dan had dared him and gone off. The guest did not notice this hint of family sorrows in his eager interest in something else. So, Sylvie knows all about birds, does she? He exclaimed, as he looked round at the little girl who sat, very demure but increasingly sleepy, in the moonlight. I am making a collection of birds myself. I have been at it ever since I was a boy. Mrs. Tilley smiled. There are 2 or 3 very rare ones I have been hunting for these 5 years. I mean to get them on my own ground if they can be found. Do you cage 'em up? Asked Mrs. Tilley doubtfully, in response to this enthusiastic announcement. Oh, no, they're stuffed and preserved. Dozens and dozens of them, said the ornithologist. And I have shot or snared every one myself. I caught a glimpse of a white heron a few miles from here on Saturday, and I have followed it in this direction. They have never been found in this district at all. The little white heron, it is. And he turned again to look at Sylvia, with the hope of discovering that the rare bird was one of her acquaintances. But Sylvia was watching a hop-toad in the narrow footpath. You would know the heron if you saw it, the stranger continued eagerly. A queer, tall white bird with soft feathers and long, thin legs, and it would have a nest, perhaps in the top of a high tree made of sticks, something like a hawk's nest. Sylvia's heart gave a wild beat. She knew that strange white bird, and had once stolen softly near where it stood in some bright green swamp grass, away over at the other side of the woods. There was an open place where the sunshine always seemed strangely yellow and hot, where tall, nodding rushes grew, and her grandmother had warned her that she might sink in the soft black mud underneath and never be heard of more. Not far beyond were the salt marshes, just this side of the sea itself, which Sylvia wondered and dreamed much about, but never had seen, whose great voice could sometimes be heard above the noise of the woods on stormy nights.